Hi, my name is Lydia Lauchella, and today we'll be having a conversation about motivation in the first-year transition to college. As more universities and colleges incorporate first-year seminars and programs, it is important to understand the challenges that affect the transition to higher education. One of the topics most commonly associated with understanding this transition is motivation. According to Morrow and Ackerman 2012, motivation has been shown to be a factor in students' persistence and retention. A question that first-year instructors struggle with answering is, how can we motivate our first-year students? This is an important question because if there is a link between persistence, retention, and motivation, we need to know how to tap into that. The issue with the transition to higher education is a complicated one. Clark 2005 describes the transition to higher education as posing various challenges. It poses obstacles, offers opportunities, and introduces changes. Making the transition to college also requires that students negotiate challenges and influences in their lives outside of college. So many factors affect student performance during this transition time. For example, students are seeking social validation. Many are leaving their families for the first time. They are trying to figure out their futures and their purpose, all while trying to navigate a new academic structure. In an attempt to understand what is happening during this critical time, this literature review will discuss research that has been conducted regarding motivation and the transition to college and will suggest areas of needed research. The research can be categorized into the following three classifications. Number 1, the role of social support and motivation during transition. Number 2, international perspectives on motivation during transition. Number 3, proposed and or tested methods to improve upon the transition. To begin, let's start with a typical definition of motivation. From Ryan and Dessing 2000, we know that to be motivated means to be moved to do something. A person who feels no impetus or inspiration to act is thus characterized as unmotivated, whereas someone who is energized or activated toward an end is considered motivated. In their article, Ryan and Dessing 2000 proposed that we should alter our view on motivation and consider that it actually varies on multiple levels. The role of motivation in student learning is important. What instructors want is for our students to be intrinsically motivated to complete a task. Ryan and Dessing 2000 have identified that social interactions at the university level and at home can shape students' intrinsic motivation. Let's take a look at Category 1. The first classification of research that will be reviewed is the role of support in motivation and transition. Various studies looked at different variables, yet the common thread that unifies these studies is that social support of first-year students is important and is linked to motivation. This chart shows the 4 studies that were looked at. Allen, 1999, discussed the importance of creating connections between faculty and staff and students. Morrow and Ackerman, 2012, looked at the importance of sense of belonging. Zumbrun, McKim, Bowles, and Halley, 2014, also looked at the importance of the sense of belonging. Postra, Madsen, and Lindblom-Yan, 2017, looked at the emotional well-being of students and how this ties into motivation. All of these studies looked at social support as a motivator. What these studies suggest is that the college social environment plays a role in determining whether students will remain motivated during their first year. First-year students are seeking social connections and positive interactions with faculty and staff, and need to feel a sense of community. These studies highlight the fact that social assimilation is an important motivational factor for first-year students. Category 2 looked at international perspectives about the transition. The central research question that resonates in these studies is whether Western transition issues are similar to first-year transition experiences in other countries. Again, this chart highlights the 4 different studies that were looked at. Gibney, Murphy, and O'Sullivan, 2011, looked at the importance of social interactions. Cortens, Brahm, Troutman, Wayne, and Lindblom-Yan found that there is a decline in motivation in the first year. Brahm, Jenner, and Wagner, 2016, also found that motivation declines in the first year, and Cole, 2017, looked at social support as a motivator. All of these studies found that first-year transition issues are a global phenomenon. These internationally focused studies are crucial to first-year seminar understanding because it is evident that first-year transition issues have common global elements. Individual institutions, however, need to find solutions that work for them. This complicates the ability to find successful methods in aiding students during their transition. So this leads us to Category 3, proposed methods to improve motivation in the transition. This chart looks at 5 different studies that were looked at. Harley, Wynn, Pemberton, and Wilcox, 2007, looked at how texting creates a sense of community among faculty and students. Petty, 2014, found that creating a bridge between secondary and higher education aids in the transition. Haynes et al., 2010, and Stewart, Perry, and Ham, 2013, looked at the role of attributional retraining. And Dennison and Edwards, 2012, looked at assessments as motivators. What is missing from these studies? As Erlbeck et al., 2014, point out in their article, First-Generation College Students, Motivations and Support Systems, the number of first-generation college students enrolling at universities is on the rise. As more universities see more first-generation students, it is important to understand transition issues that are unique to them. Also, more varied ethnic minority studies need to be considered in this body of research. Another question that we should be asking is, are there key social moments that occur during secondary education that affect motivation during the transition to college? This literature review has highlighted important areas of research on motivation in first-year students that address the importance of maintaining social well-being, fostering relationships, and creating a sense of community among first-year students, most particularly among first-generation and ethnic minority students. This review also discussed how first-year transition issues are global in nature, and these issues focus on the positive and negative social interactions that affect first-year student motivation. The key points to take away from this body of research is that first-year students will typically experience a decline in motivation during the first year. This is an important concept that needs to be understood and explored among individual institutions. As more interest is being made to understand the critical need in researching the transition to higher education, studies should turn to practical solutions that individual institutions can adopt. Here we find the conundrum, though. Although we know that transition issues are a global phenomenon, individual institutions need to have a solid understanding of student demographics to find methods that best help students negotiate the transition to college. I have listed my references below. This concludes my literature review. Thank you for watching.